Hey everyone, David C. Anderson here coming at you from the Knife Center, and it's our favorite time of the week. We're taking a look at the coolest new knives that have just hit our shelves. Let's check them out. All right, first thing this week, we like to start off with exclusives, and this is perhaps the biggest exclusive we've ever revealed, based on size alone. Here we go. This is the RMJ Tactical Wyvern. This is the 3V Syndicate version with our exclusive orange and black G10 handle combination here. Very, very cool knife. Very expensive knife. This is a huge chunk of 3V steel, and as such, the raw materials and more importantly, the machining time is going to increase. It's about $890 right now. So keep that in mind before making your purchase. It is awesome, obviously. Point blank, like that is primarily, I think, its coolest reason for existing. But shall we evaluate it from like a camp tool perspective? Why not? So. Why not? That's kind of more what I know than tactical stuff anyway. It's really cool and could make a pretty capable camp tool. 3V is nice and tough, of course. You've got a 15-inch blade right here. So you want something that's gonna be tough if you're gonna be hacking with it. And the edge itself is left a little bit on the thicker side, which again is gonna be great for a little more durability in the hack and slash environs of, you know, trail breaking, campsite clearing, yard work even perhaps. This is probably gonna wind up being used more for yard work than any other single use out there. I would hazard a guess, or collectability perhaps. Anyway, the 3V, like I said, great choice for something like that. The shape, I think, would do a really good job in the hack and slash environs there, whether you're needing to take down some smaller branches. This doesn't strike me as like the heaviest chopper per se, because you have a more tapering, more agile shape overall. But, you know, vines, creepers, bushes, small branches like that, I think it's gonna do a great job. Yeah, you could certainly chop with it, but I think there's gonna be better chopping tools right off the bat. And then if you're using it to split wood, you've got this long swedge here, taking up, you know, 2/3 of the blade. That's gonna be a bit problematic for using that to baton through some wood. You're gonna kind of chew up your baton a little bit, but it could be done. The orange is gonna be fairly visible in the outdoors. And if you needed to do smaller work with it, you could even choke up on the ricasso portion right here for some trap work. Should you? I don't know. I'll leave that up to you. But like I said, that's kind of more what I know than the tactical stuff. So it's fun to think about how this would work in that type of thing. Can it stand up to the use? It's an RMJ, so yeah, absolutely. They're built super, super solid. The sheath has a slight open-backed design made out of Kydex. Open-backed, of course, because with that profile, it's gonna be a lot easier to get it in and out. But you do sacrifice the positive retention of Kydex as a result, so that's where this strap comes in, which comes with a pull-the-dot snap to keep it from coming loose, except in the one direction that it will open in. And you've got a belt strap on the back also with that pull-the-dot snap. And in case you were wondering, that whole pattern up here is large tech lock compatible. The next exclusives this week are more fixed blades. Gotta love it. It is a pair of CruWear bladed Creely blades Makos. We have two versions right now. We have this Python Micarta, which has a cool look and a nice feel. And we have the orange and black G10, which, me personally, I really dig this. I like that even better. $240 for the orange and black, another $5 for the Python. What you have here is a pocket fixed blade because, well, let's show the sheath to prove it. Really cool leather. It's a nice aesthetic here. It's undyed, which normally it's like, oh, they could have dyed it, right? But the edges are black. So you got a really cool contrast there in the colors. Very distinctive. You don't see, or I'm not used to seeing quite that combination too often, and it looks fantastic. The knife slides into the sheath very easily. You've got not too much sticking out the top, and you have an ulti-clip to keep it stationary inside the pocket. Situate it where you want it to go, hem up your pocket inside the clip, clamp it down, and then that's not moving, and it's very easy to get that knife out. And going back to the inserted position, one of the downsides of pocket fixed blades sometimes is a lot sticks out of the pocket, and this is not quite the case. They managed to keep it fairly minimal. Although if you do want it to be easier to extract, you could always add a fob or something like that. It's a really cool little knife, about 2.9 inches on the blade, full flat ground on this particular one, and the CruWear, a good tough steel with good edge retention, so you can kind of push this a little harder than other thin bladed pocket knives you might be used to. And I say thin bladed because we don't have too much thickness there. This is going to be a wicked little cutter day to day. The handle swells are excellent. It feels good in that gorilla grip. It kind of sits a little forward, or the swell sits a little forward of the center of my hand based on my hand size, which is, of course, slightly larger than average, but that's okay. It still feels good, and it works really great in some of those pinch grip movements as well. Really, really digging these knives, and like I said, KnifeCenter exclusive, so you can only get them right here. Next up is a distributor exclusive, which means, you know, one of the wholesale partners we worked with Spyderco then to create this version of the Paramilitary 2, which is $175, which is a really interesting price nowadays. What you have here is Tiffany blue G10 handle scales. So at the risk of being sexist, you know, good present for the woman in your life, perhaps. Especially if you are the woman in your life. Buy it for yourself, of course. But it's just a cool look, and the black coating on the blade sets it off really interestingly. It's kind of yin and yang there. You've got the harshness of the black and the softness of the Tiffany blue there. Kind of interesting. But the price, like I said, is very interesting right now because the blade steel on this Paramilitary 2 is S90V. So a big jump up in edge retention from the S45 VN of the base models. But a black coated black G10 PM2 with S45 VN is $185 and some change. It's $10 more than this S90V version. How cool is that? It's not the cheapest way to get a PM2. You could still get an uncoated S45 version, but only for like $4 or $5 less than this. So that is a huge performance upgrade for not a huge price upgrade. And if you're the kind of person who likes to customize these and you're going to throw custom scales on it anyway, it's a cheaper way to get the more premium blade. So very, very cool. As for the knife, if you're unfamiliar with the PM2, 3.4-inch blade, Spyderco shape, very typical here, a little bit thicker than some for durability, but a full flat grind for easy slicing. 4-position pocket clip on the handle, compression lock. This one needs a little bit of breaking in, but once they do, they can easily be flicked open and closed. You can do the Spidey flick or the reverse flick quite easily. It is just a fantastic knife. It's a larger knife that handles a little more agilely than similar sized knives tend to. So you've got big knife capability with the precision of a smaller knife at times. Very, very cool. Made in the USA, very durable, and a very good price on this distributor exclusive. All right, next up, we have got some autos. We've got some new versions of the Kershaw launches, 8 and 9. I'll start with the 8 here. This obviously stiletto-inspired design by Matt Diskin. New color with this teal anodized aluminum, and the price on this is about $112 right now. As with all launches, you've got that aluminum handle and you've got a CPM 154 blade. Length on this, 3.5 inches, very acute, and you've got a carbon fiber inlay on this knife as well. The launch series comes with very good action, amongst the best at any price in the side opening automatic genre, no joke, made in the USA. And like all launch knives, it's a great value. You're not paying a heck of a lot when you consider other automatics out there. You know, automatics aren't the cheapest to begin with. This is amongst the cheapest you can get, or the least expensive you can get, I should say, but it doesn't feel cheap at all. The quality of these is right up there with stuff that is far more expensive. Like, you're not giving up anything except fewer dollars to get into one of these knives. The new version of the Launch 9 right now comes with a gray aluminum handle and a BlackWashed CPM 154 blade, a 1.8 inch long blade. So this is one of those California compliant models. And overall, it's just a really nice compact knife as well, if you're looking for a small automatic knife. The other thing a small auto gets you is the firing mechanism. The spring is essentially pretty much the same as the larger knives. So you've got just as much or almost as much strength to move much less steel. So these always are extra snappy, these small ones, which is really cool. Deep carry pocket clip on this one, and it is reversible for either side. So lefties can rejoice if you like to carry the knife on that side instead. Very, very cool little knives. Next up, we have an OTF automatic from ARS Knives. And if you're like me, you see this firing switch here and you think, oh, that looks a lot like the D-Rocket OTFs that we've seen recently. And there's a reason for that. ARS is actually the outfit that builds those OTFs for Daryl Caston and his D-Rocket brand. So this is, the same type of quality you would expect from those knives. Price on this, it is a custom Defender. It is $650 for the copper front scaled version. There's also a stainless steel version, same price on that. The backside is stainless steel and nice and smooth. You're gonna want some kind of pocket slip or something for this to carry it probably. The copper on the front, already right out of the box, is patinaed nicely. And the double-edged blade is under 3 inches long, CPM 154 steel, double-edged. So you've got close to 6 inches of working edge, truly. So you got a lot of edge hold, or a lot of long lasting edge as a result, because you doubled up essentially. And the switch works great, but check out the sound here. It's another one of those nice resonant knives. And nothing feels wrong with it. It just feels like everything feels super tight, but it's just resonant in a way where that vibration just carries through the whole knife rather than just being deadened, so to speak. Pretty darn cool. All right, next up we have a slip joint. And something always amuses me about going from an OTF to a slip joint, because there's like this huge gulf of style between them, but I like it nonetheless. The latest in the new push of American-made Schrades. This is the USA-made Generational 340 TG. It is essentially a Stockman, although they're calling here a Middleman. Price on it is $72. And I guess the reason it's not technically a Stockman is thus. We do have 3 blades like a Stockman. You have the standard clip point blade, you've got your sheep's foot blade here, and then rather than a spay blade, they gave us a secondary pen blade. Similar, but a little more utility for most folks day to day, perhaps. Less belly and more tip to use on that smaller knife blade. So that's kind of cool. Steel on these blades is $10.95. This is old school carbon steel on an old school knife made the old school way in the USA. Hey, that rhymed. Sorry. Apologies. And the handle scales here are actual bone covers here. These aren't like saw-cut Delrin or anything like that. They kind of upped the quality or upped the materials selection there. It is a really cool, small, Stockman-esque pocket knife for daily carry. I love it. The Generational series, the new USA made stuff, you've heard me say it before. It's really cool to see. Now, we're not sure who's actually making these for Schrade, because obviously Schrade doesn't have their own USA-based manufacturing anymore, but whoever they are getting to make them for them are doing a fantastic job. All right, next up, we have another slip joint, but very different in style. New versions of the Viper Hug. There's a few different versions of this knife available. This one has a bronze handle. It is a dark stone-washed bronze, so you get that forced patina, and then they've milled these really cool kind of firework shapes into each side. Very striking look, and the bronze handle material here definitely gives you a substantial feel in the hand. This is not a lightweight knife, so if you like, very easy to carry, well, it's gonna be easy to carry, but if you like really kind of unnoticeable things in your pocket, this is not gonna be it. This is a slip joint that imparts a feel of solidity in a way that not all do. Like, it's just that good. Blade, 3 1/8 of an inch long, M390 modified Wharncliffe shape. You've got that almost harpoon style thing going on to the spine. Not really, but that nice long swedge along with it. Crowned spine for comfort and for style, and that crowned aesthetic goes all the way to the back, all the way down that back spring as well. Very classy, Italian made, of course, being a Viper. Good materials, really cool look. The action, it walks great and talks great as well. I mean, just listen. Oh yeah, that's what you're looking for. And it's a great shape for daily use, especially, any kind of non-locking knife. A Wharncliffe-esque or sheepsfoot-esque blade stands a little bit less chance of accidentally disengaging if you're piercing with it, rather than something, or as opposed to something with a more upswept tip. Very, very well considered design. About $150 for this one too. So for an Italian-made knife with these materials, it's actually not that expensive considering. Several versions of this. There's some other bronze versions coming in about $139 right now, $138.95. So even more affordable. And then of course you've got some of the titanium and other inlaid options that have already been released. But this is a new knives video, so we're focusing on the new stuff, of course. Next up, we have another set of new versions of an existing Viper. This is the Turn. There are now several versions of this knife sans bolster. That's the word. Compared to the other versions that had an integrated or an integral titanium bolster and inlays on each side, or I guess onlays technically. Yes, technically. But this one has full-length scales on each side instead. We've got some micarta options. Those start at less than $170. This one is a yellow dark matter carbon fiber, which comes in about $208 right now. And I've always been a big fan of this design in general. It's got a really cool shape, looks very custom. These versions, or this version at least, has the deep carry pocket clip. Some versions of this knife, of course, come with the belt sheath and no clip. And check out that blade, 3 1/4 inches of M390, really sweet clip point styling going on. Crown spine again, high flat grind for good slicing despite the thickness of the blade, mid-mounted lockback, and one of the few lockbacks out there, in fact the only one I can think of right now, that has a lockback and ball bearings in the pivot. Not a usual combination, and as such it pops open a lot more quickly than most lockback knives tend to do. Yeah, how cool is that? Next up, we have the Viper Orso 2. Several versions of this as well. This one with its milled titanium handles comes in about $210 right now. You've got some blue accents, including the milled pocket clip and the back spacer, and of course the pivot rings as well. As far as the action goes, we've got ball bearings in the pivot, therefore quite nice, and a good sweeping line to the overall shape. Jens Anso design, I should say. Now, the steel on this knife, I'll have to admit, I'm a little stumped by. We've got a 3.4 inch trailing point blade, or I guess, actually, it's a straight spine blade, it's not trailing point, but it is an upswept belly. It is a Lohmann made steel, and I know Lohmann is German, and the grade is QPM 20-4. I was not able to find any substantive information on this steel online. All I could really find were links to this knife. Even when I removed the word, or excluded the word Viper from the search, I came up a little stumped. Now, QPM, is it a powder metal process? I don't know. 20-4, is it similar to, well, Carpenter has their 204P, which is their analog to M390 and 20CV. Is it along those lines? I am genuinely unsure, and that's where maybe someone out there has some information you can share. I would certainly love to hear it, because I did the sleuthing I could and came up scratching my head. I suspect it's some pretty good stuff, some premium stuff, because they tend to not use any kind of, cheap or chintzy materials on these Vipers, but I can't tell you exactly what it is. So I am curious. Sound off down below if you please. All right, this next knife does have a steel I'm familiar with. This is a new Kirby Lambert design from Reate. This is the mini Crossroads, and it has an M390 blade. 3.3 inches long and 377 for these new versions. There are two versions of this. There's a green canvas micarta inlaid option, and there is this, which I think is so much cooler. It is a bone linen micarta inlay. Even though we say white micarta on our website, that must be the spec that Reate provided to us. But that's pretty clearly a bone linen micarta. I mean, it is such a cool material. It has kind of a bony, natural look to it. There's little bits of irregularities with the flecking, the little specks you get in there, which I just love. It's unique. Each one is special, including this one right here. Titanium frame, integral titanium bolsters. The bolsters are inlaid, and the scales take place on the back half of each handle. Blue pivot collar, really intricate looking pivot design. Milled pocket clip on the back, floating back spacer, which is really cool. And of course, a frame lock, or some might call it a bolster lock, but I still like to call it a frame lock. And flipping action, did I flip this open earlier?
Maybe.
I can't remember. Oh yeah, I remember. This is quite good. M390 blade, 3.3 inches. I did already mention that, I think. Hollow grind on this knife, so it's not a super thin blade to start with. The hollow grind is going to keep it thinner behind the edge, of course, and that edge itself is nice and thin and very sharp. Then pushing up, you're not going to hit more resistance until you get towards the top of those grinds right there. Really, really cool. Feels good in the hand. I mean, even though this is a mini, the original Crossroads was much larger, I can get all 4 of my fingers on there, no problem. Got a substantial feel in the hand, but not a substantial weight in a way. It's 4.6 ounces. Doesn't feel that heavy, I'll be honest. It doesn't feel, like it feels substantial, but it doesn't feel ultralight either. It's nice and built really well. Reates always are built exceptionally well, and this is no exception. Next up, penultimately for this video, we have some mid-techs from Berg blades. This is their slim folder. And we have several different inlay versions. This is a Mars Valley fat carbon, and the price on this is $375. Frame is titanium with integral bolsters. Your blade length is only 2 3/4, but you've got such a big chunk of that 20 CV steel right there that it feels more capable than just a sub 3-inch knife ought to feel. Got a really great kind of modified cleaver-esque shape right there, maybe modified sheep's foot perhaps. And the feel in the hand, even though it's kind of I'll call it a 3.5 finger grip, only because the main portion of the handle fits my 3 fingers actually perfectly, and my pinky can grab the upswept tail of that knife quite well. 3.5 or 4, yeah, 3.5. But I love that. It feels good, feels locked into the hand, no small part because of that pinky orientation right there. And then you can still manipulate it really nicely with that kick at the back, moving things around. Pinches are nice. The Gorilla Grip is very nice. They're built very well. Let's see, do we know who is building them? These are made by We Knives for them, so expect similar quality right there. No flipper tab on this knife. You've got the thumb opener. Works great in that reverse flick as well. High flat grinds, aggressive swedge going on. So you've got a tall blade to get around, but they've removed friction wherever they could at the same time. Really, really nicely done. And last on the list, but certainly not last in our hearts, we have got a lot of new fixed blades from Stroup knives, or Stroup knives, Stroup, not sure. $300 for this custom dagger. These are handmade, I do believe, here in the USA. That is correct. We've got daggers, we've got some more tactical looking stuff. I think we showed you some of that last week, and some other patterns as well. This is such a cool dagger. 5.25 inch blade, $10.95. Darkened, as you can see, double edged, a little bit thicker on the edge for some more durability. Really want to call the faux hammered look there. At least I think it's faux. It's not actually hammered in because, and I say that because it's very regular here on the center portion of the back side of the blade. It doesn't look like It looks like they went in with some grinding apparatus to do that. It's got a really cool look. G10 for the handles, crenellated out and scooped out, and it locks into place. It's not a super, or really, it's not the kind of shape you would go for if you wanted ultimate comfort, if you were using a knife for a long period of time, but that's not what this style of knife is anyway. This is something designed to be used last ditch, emergencies, and the last thing you want is to lose your grip in that sort of situation. And with a handle like this, little chance of that happening. Very, very nicely made. And the sheath, also nicely made. We've got Kydex. It comes with its own tech lock pre-installed, so obviously it is large tech lock compatible. Everything about it just screams like vicious nature, and it is pretty darn cool. All right, that's all I have to show you for this week. Let me know what you thought in the comments, and if you want to get your hands on any of these knives, check out the links in the description, take you over to KnifeCenter.com. And don't forget about our Knife Rewards program, because if you're buying from us, you could be earning some free money to spend on your next set of purchases. I'm David C. Anderson from the Knife Center. That's Thomas behind the camera, and we're signing off. See you next time.